classic era.
Work, sir. When my master says, Crow, do this thing, I do the thing, whatever it may be.
This is episode... Most of the time. This is episode 128.
Sometimes it's things I don't want to do, but I do it anyway. Because I am Crow.
The master says. This is episode 128, recorded June 24th, 2022.
Gruesome Magazine.
Just making up for not being here last time.
I am your host, Jeff Moore. On this podcast, we cover the good, the bad, maybe even the ugly horror films released since the beginning of time through 1969. In each episode, we'll discuss the monsters, spirits, psychos, and villains that have haunted movie-going audiences since the dawn of film history. Decades of Horror, the classic era, is partnering with Play Now Media on 3 of their channels: the Classic Sci-Fi Movie Channel, the Classic Horror Movie Channel, and the Wicked Horror TV Channel. Each of those channels now has episodes of Decades of Horror, the classic era. Those are available on most, there's apps for most sites. For Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, online website, etc., etc., etc. Or you can do it on your computer as well. And they are coming up with some good stuff, and we're finding a lot of good movies to watch there. So we're digging in. You know, they're putting up a lot of good films, including today's movie. With me this week are my incredible co-hosts, Whitney Chiazza, an accomplished artist and makeup artist and writer. How are you, Whitney?
I'm all right. How's it going?
I'm good. Also with us is Chad Hunt, co-host on Decades of Horror, the 70s and 80s, film producer and director with Wreak Havoc Productions, and a comic book artist and writer. Chad, how are you?
Fantastic. Master.
We
see how that tied into the intro, the whole intro.
We'll talk about that later. And finally, we have Daphne, aka Gorslava or Bust, who is awesome, stupendous, likable as hell. And Daphne, how are you?
It's good to see you again, my homicidal friends. I'm good.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, so we're doing a movie from 1961 today. So, you know what, 61 years ago. Mm-hmm. So we're spoiling it. We're just going to pretend like you saw it. If you haven't seen it, go watch it first, or get it spoiled and listen to us, and then go watch it. However you prefer. Our film this episode is Mr. Sardonicus. Again, from 1961. Directed by William Castle, written by Ray Nussel. Good, Jeff. Good. It's Ray Russell, who wrote the screenplay based on his own novella, which appeared in Playboy magazine in, I believe, January 1961.
Under an even different name.
Nope, Ray Russell. And, well, we'll talk about that maybe. Well, he actually was the fiction editor for Playboy magazine for a while, so I don't know. Maybe that had something to do with it. The cast includes Audrey Dalton, Guy Rolfe, Oscar Homolka, and Ronald Lewis. Produced by William Castle Productions, but distributed by Columbia. So it was filmed at Columbia Studios. Filming dates March 28th through May 1961. It was released October 18th, 1961, with an October 8th premiere, I guess, at New York City. And you're doing New York City. Boy, I'm throwing extra syllables in today. The German title, Der Unheimliche Mr. Sardonicus, which is like the eerie or haunting.
Is that what you do when people are choking?
Yeah. It might be where it comes from. I don't know.
Der Heimliche! Der Heimliche!
So Mr. Sardonicus is about a search for a winning lottery ticket in his dead father's grave, which causes Sardonicus' face to freeze in a horrible grimace until he forces a doctor to treat his affliction with even more grotesque results. I'm not sure that's true, but
I don't know, but I don't remember that part.
less grotesque but continuing results. I don't know. And this was the Baron's first wife when she saw his face.
That's true.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen that look.
Oh, Chad. All
It's
right.
a hard knock life, guys. It's a hard knock life.
It is now time for taglines. Yes.
Already?
Yes. The ones.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, your taglines for this week's movie, Mr. Sardonicus. Tagline number 1, a man of evil with a face that could stop a heart. That could be taken as romantic or deadly.
Double entendre.
You be the judge. The only picture with a punishment pole.
Now that. Wait
That's
a minute.
P-O-L-L,
That sounds-
folks. Not P-O-L-E.
That does conjure up kind of strange pictures, doesn't it?
Yeah. This William
Oh,
Castle
dear.
guy. Now filmed in Punishment Pole. P-O-L-E. On your way out, take a swing on the punishment pole, everybody. During the running of the film, the punishment pole lets you decide the fate of Mr. Sardonicus. Again, P-O-L-L.
Maybe.
You decide the fate of Mr. Sardonicus during the punishment poll, P-O-L-L. Vote mercy or no mercy right in your theater seat.
Yep.
What if you're
And
kind
William
of on the
Castle,
fence
his
about
own
it?
self. William Castle, his own self-counsel. All right. Let's get to first impressions. Why do I always have a little fly buzzing around me? So this one is actually, this is Chad's pick. So he's
Was it?
already right there where he needs to be.
Okay.
When
I
did,
thought
when
it
did you
was
first
just
see
'cause I'm
this?
so beautiful.
Oh, well, that too. And you got your new flea market shirt on, right?
I got one of them, yeah.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Like
I love
it.
that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
What were we talking about again? Oh, Mr. Sardonicus. I saw bits and pieces of this as a kid, but I've never seen the whole thing until now because at the time I watched it, I just didn't think it was that scary or whatever. But watching it now, this is like one of the best William Castle movies, I think. It was a little more serious, a little more mature than most of the other ones, even though I love the other movies he did. This one just had a different feel to it than his previous films. But the whole it ruined me with the punishment pole at the end. That was just a cheap gimmicky stick in right there at the end so Castle could see himself, I believe, on film. But it sort of made the ending stumble a little bit for me. So it sort of came to like an abrupt stop, and you want to keep punishing them or what, guys? You know, so that was kind of a weird part for me. But yeah, the other parts of it I liked really, really well. I liked the makeup on Sardonicus. I thought it was really creepy and scary, and it was well acted, and it had its spots where you're like, sort of all these experiments he was going through for his face and everything that he kidnapped the doctor for was some really tense scenes there. So I like those a lot. So yeah, I really, really, really like this movie, having watched it all the way now for the first time.
Ah, good. Cool. I enjoyed the pick. Okay, so Daphne, how about you? Have you seen this before?
I hadn't
Okay.
seen it, and I totally agree with what Chad said. I really liked it. It was it took me a while. I kept like telling myself this is it was a lot more mature. It had some really dark subject matter, and Sardonicus was really evil, and yeah, it didn't have kind of like the playfulness that sometimes the William Castle movies have, but I really liked it a lot. I really liked the mask, Mr. Sardonicus mask. I thought that had a creepy kind of, it looked like him, but it was obvious, but it was obviously this, this mask that was really kind of disturbing. I loved the grace that he kind of moved around in, and kind of just he wasn't like a stereotypical bad guy. He was like, I don't know, just like the proper bad guy that you always seems to be a little bit worse than the obvious bad guy. And I was kind of surprised by some of the things that they alluded to, like with him and women, and the torture that went on, and kind of the things that he might do with his wife and stuff like that. Yeah, I thought that the little bit at the end, I agree with Chad. It kind of was like, oh man, don't stick that in there, because it kind of put it broke it up a little bit, right? When you're thinking something's gonna, right when you get to the end, which is actually really good. And
that's what.
But I thought it was great.
Always telling him. Right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't put that in there.
I couldn't help myself. I don't put that thing in there.
Oh man, I set stuff up so good.
Sorry.
By accident most of the time.
I'm going out.
Yeah, that's about it. I liked it.
Okay. Whitney, how about you?
I liked it. I was a little confused by some of the story, because as we go towards the end, like with this whole thing that Sardonicus is going through with this so-called affliction and his, grimace, and this doctor is coming in to treat him or whatever. I mean, throughout the movie, when I question some things, like, okay, so there's this doctor who's coming in, but also there's like a little love spark with Sardonicus, with his wife, the current wife or something. And then sure enough, later in the story, we see we see some feelings popping up. But the thing that really got to me was, I'm questioning, like, is this really because of a lottery ticket? Like, or is it like more of a mental thing? Like he did that to himself, but I don't know. I mean, I have questions. I still have questions, but it was overall it was pretty cool. I mean, I enjoyed it. It's just I question a lot of things in this one.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, and so my experience with this is, and I have a little story to tell. When I was in junior high, a friend of mine saw this on like the late night Saturday movie, and the next day he's telling me all about it. He like literally told me the whole movie because he was so fired up about it. And he's talking about how this face, and oh my God, I mean, he told it so well, got it so built up that I couldn't wait until I saw this movie. So I've always got, and it's like, who could forget Mr. Sardonicus, as a title. So I'm just waiting to watch it. And the payoff was there. We don't see it for quite a while, but I think it's really good. And I think this has, Rob White wrote a bunch of the earlier Castle ones, but this one by Ray Russell, I think might be, I don't know. I have to go back and watch the other ones, but I thought this was well written. There's some things there that are timed just right, and some I don't know, portent that's given early. I liked the makeup to the heads, his father's head. That was awesome. We even get my favorite part was after he sees his father in the casket, in the grave after he digs it up. Then when he's running back home, he's sounding like, did that not sound like Renfield from Dracula? He was almost like going, he was doing this really weird kind of moan that just was weird, right before he scared his wife almost to death. So I like this one a lot too. The castle thing in the middle, I don't know. I guess, did it bother me? I don't know. It definitely was an interruption.
It made me think it wasn't a castle film until that point. Yeah. Even though I knew it was a castle film.
Yeah.
Up till that point.
Well, he comes out on the bridge and does a little intro in the fog too, which this movie had the coolest fog. It was like swirling around, and when I don't know, I just thought it was cool. Let's take a quick look at some posters. And, it's Castle, so it's more important to be selling the punishment pole than anything else. I mean, we do have a man of evil with a face that could stop a heart. Those cards, they had an activation chamber. You were supposed to stick the card in this little thing with it was a box with a light in it, so that it would sort of get charged, so it would glow in the dark, supposedly.
Oh.
Oh God, Castle's just not enough to have a gimmick and interrupt the movie twice. We have to have an activation chamber for the cards. So yeah, that's okay. But again, like all these movies, we even get William Castle sitting up in the corner of that poster there, I think. But she doesn't wear
all Hitchcock-like.
Yeah. His Maud doesn't wear clothes like that.
We never even saw her feet.
I know. I don't know if we saw her neck. Except for in that scene with the ropes around him.
Yes,
right.
Yes, that's true.
Very modest.
And I don't know, the thing on her wrist there holding her on the chair, that's not gonna, looks a little loose. But anyway, and then here we are again explaining the punishment pole from the Columbia Press book.
That's a bunch of hooey.
So then we have a real poster here.
I like
which is
that
okay.
one.
Yeah. I like it. I'm not sure it really gives you much clue into the movie.
No, but it's beautiful.
It's a cool poster.
It is cool. And it's got those are the four main folks that are there most of the time. We get a few other people. There's the maid, etc. And the German poster. Unheimliche Mr. Sardonicus.
What happened to her clothes between the end of the movie and the poster painting?
I know. And do they call people Mr. in German? I need to look that up. You'd think it would say Herr Sardonicus or Baron Sardonicus or something.
I do kind of like the idea of how they have Sardonicus kind of just in shadows, and I like the split up there. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
It's sort of a metaphor for like we can't see his face; he's in the shadows. I don't know, maybe.
It looks like the clamps on the chair around her hand were made for Bigfoot, though.
Yes, yeah,
can't get my hand through for some strange reason.
Not gonna hold her in there. He's not a nice guy. I mean,
no, he's terrible.
Pretty though.
Yeah.
And this is a great shot. This is
so awesome.
Is it Basil or Basil? Basil.
Basil.
Yeah.
Basil. Go-Go's. Yeah, it's definitely. Love the work. Love the artwork, though.
Yeah. And that's not bad. It's not a bad representation.
It's probably a better representation than the movie was.
So
I mean,
just
the way it looks and everything.
Before we get talking about this too much, these are the William Castle movies that we've done, and the top picture, which you can barely see, is him peeking over his punishment card as he's telling people about it. But these are Decades of Horror episodes. Classic Era has done House on Haunted Hill, The Tingler, and 13 Ghosts. And 70s did Bug, which he produced. He didn't direct it, but he produced it.
Roaches that fought fire.
With the ever-present Bradford Dillman in the 70s.
He was the man. Brad Dillman.
Yeah.
He was everywhere.
He was. Piranha. Okay. The castle's all over the place. We've got some more to go on here.
Look at that poster in the bottom.
He's
Look at
got
that
one.
poster.
Mhm.
Hello, police. There's a bug farting on my phone.
She
As
picks
we
up the
speak.
phone and there's a bug on it, and I think
It's farting
if I remember right,
sulfur.
it burns her face.
Are you in danger right now, ma'am? I don't think so, but this sure is strange.
Who'd have thought it was going to be fire? I mean, I've heard of stink bugs before, but this is something else. All right. So here are the players. So up in the top shot, we get Guy Rolfe plays Sardonicus, and he has a different name before he becomes Sardonicus.
Mhm.
Toslakowski or something like that. Tolakowski.
Yokevsky,
And that's
was
his
it
father,
Yokevsky?
played by Vladimir Sokolov, and his wife, played by Erica Peters. She apparently commits suicide after finding out, after seeing him, I guess.
Yeah. Not on screen. though. I don't
He
think
changes
showed on
his name to
screen.
Baron Sardonicus. So that we said at the beginning, he something about winning the lottery. So his father, they make fun of him because he's always buying lottery tickets. He comes in with a lottery ticket, sticks it in his pocket, dies, and they bury him with the lottery ticket in his pocket, wearing that waistcoat, they call it. And
Mhm.
then a friend comes to tell him they won the lottery, and then they realize he has to become a ghoul. Go dig up the buried. He digs up his father, and his father looks like that top picture
Mhm.
Go!
Mhm.
with that grimace, and he just starts screaming. Then remembers to grab the lottery ticket, goes home, and he's frozen into the grimace from the horror of seeing his father, supposedly, right?
I really like that grave, that skull in the grave. I think it's just
Yeah,
it does the
No,
job. It's creepy.
Mhm.
It's
creepy.
Mhm.
it's very well done,
Mhm.
I thought.
Like if the Joker had a corpse.
Mhm.
Yes,
Mhm.
It is.
Yeah.
I was thinking
But it-
that.
But it looks, I mean, I don't want alive isn't the right word to it, but it just looks, there's
Oh,
just
the
so much
hair.
going on there. Yeah.
It has its own
it's
character.
almost like,
yeah.
yeah, character. Exactly. There's
It's
character
not.
to
It's
it.
not a generic
No.
looking corpse.
It's like he is laughing at you or something.
Well,
like
and
a
for
demon almost
viewers,
or something.
that bottom picture, Baron Sardonicus takes it with him and puts it in this room so he can apparently go stare at it now and then to reinforce his grimace. I don't know. Kind of an odd thing to do.
He's an odd character.
He is. So let's see, back here. So he marries Audrey Dalton somehow after he wins the lottery. He uses the money to buy a big
Castle.
house. I don't know if I'd call it a castle, but it's a big house and mansion maybe. And then let's see, Oscar Homolka plays Krull, the
It's a great movie.
basically Sardonicus henchman,
Mhm.
manservant.
Somewhat.
Mhm.
He makes me do things.
Yes, he says, "Do this thing, I do the thing." And then Ronald Lewis plays Sir Robert Cargrave, I believe,
Mhm.
who was also a doctor, and he and Audrey Dalton, who is Maud, were a thing back in the old days. but he got so consumed with becoming a doctor that apparently she went her own way, and I don't know how this hookup. I think her father.
Yeah, her father
Sardonicus
wanted
a bunch
him.
of money. Yeah,
Her father wanted him. Yeah.
That's another thing I hate about some of these kinds of movies, where the Ronald Lewis character, he looks like he's in modern day city, dressed in modern clothes and this and that. One carriage ride away, and they're slapped back into the 1700s, 1800s, and they're wearing all these weird clothes with the vests and all that kind of stuff.
Which, by the way, is Sardonicus lives in Gorslava, which is like the coolest country name ever. Gorslava, Gore. It's a horror movie.
I'll see you, Transylvania, and I'll raise you one Gorslava.
Gorslava. So Maud, Audrey Dalton, writes a letter to Sir Robert, her old boyfriend, and says, "I need you to come desperately. Something about my husband wants to see you." And how does that go again? I should have kept that quote up.
I'm spacing out on it right now too.
Yeah, you must. I don't know. She needs him to come for her own well-being. You must.
Most urgent.
Yes.
Oh, most urgent. Most urgent.
Most urgent.
Most urgent. In this note. Urgent. So he shows up, and then when she's there anyway, she's kind of like, "What? No, I didn't mean that." But she really did. So anyway, he immediately drops everything and goes there. So let's talk about this thing. This has got some great. What about the writing and the direction? Any comments about that, or certain scenes, or anything that hit you, or answer some of Whitney's questions?
Yeah. I mean, how do you guys feel about that? I mean, because the first, when I started to watch it, and especially when, with the first wife, and then they were saying what she did. I'm like, did she really do that, or did he do it? I don't know. I have questions about his character.
I hadn't thought about that. But that's a good question.
Or am I just really obscure and negative? I don't know.
It could. That's one way of looking at it, for sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, because you can't trust what he's saying.
No, not at all.
Yeah. You can't trust what he's saying.
Or maybe I was reading too much into his character. I don't know. But yeah, I just thought, okay, if he's such a bad person, which he is, I mean, we're seeing that he's got this affliction and everything. But he's a terrible person. He's abusive to his spouse and to that blonde woman. But anyway, I know Jeff was talking about the direction, wanting to know how we felt about certain scenes in the direction. No, I thought it was pretty good pacing. I thought it was pretty, getting the characters to interact the way that they did, especially the one with the eye, Kroll. Yeah. So he just some of the pacing and the interaction, I thought that was pretty well directed. And especially with, there were some lights and shadows that were pretty strange and cool with, if we're going to talk about cinematography, but definitely when you guys saw the images of, his father's, decomposed and grimace and all of that. That was all of that stuff. I feel like that's going to stay with me forever. All of
I agree. That's why that guy was so excited about the movie, telling me about this gruesome face, and I've never forgotten it either when I saw it.
Yeah, I just feel like some of the pacing and the interaction with the characters and the way things were just moving along, there's especially the makeup and the shots with how things were going. I feel like that stuff is definitely going to stick with you while watching this and even after. So, yeah, I'll let you guys start talking now.
No,
I agree about. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say I agree with the pacing. Absolutely. The you know, this getting him out of London. You know, getting to know his character and then getting him out of London to Gorslava. All you needed to know, and then you get there, and that kind of stuff happens, and then they move through that really quick too.
Mhm.
I didn't feel like bored or anything when I was watching it. It was kind of funny just when I was thinking about it. There was some scenes that I thought were really, like, I kept saying, wow, William Castle directed this. And but because there were some scenes that I thought were really cool, like that we're talking, Whitney mentioned talking about the cinematography, the scene when he had the when Krull had the maidservant kind of tied up, hanging from the ceiling. I mean, some of the shots in there were just like the angles and everything. It was really beautiful, and it was so evil. I mean, what is the things he was saying? Yeah, the bottom, that whole scene. I was just like, what is he saying? He's going to do with these leeches?
He's hanging her by her thumbs.
Her thumbs and her toes are hanging.
Tiptoes.
Right. I mean, Krull is he's experienced that. I mean, he knows what he's doing. And so, and then just some of the kind of dark scenes that had kind of happened that way. But then there were other scenes that were almost for comedy, like when Krull was walking Sir Robert up the stairs, he kept stopping and looking at him and stopping looking. And I'm like, is this Igor or something? What's happening here? And but so
but stopping and looking back at him, and then
you know, and so I enjoyed that. It was kind of kept me off a little off balance, and so I thought there was some cool stuff in there.
Yeah, I love the walking up the stairs thing.
There were a lot of those scenes with this big shadows behind and everything.
Yes,
I love that a lot. And the lighting, even on Sardonicus, was good. It made him the use of shadows and everything made him just that creepy makeup look even that more creepy.
Yeah.
Well,
and the scene in the graveyard when he's, like you were talking about, the cool fog and the way he was running back to his house. I like that he had to go back into the grave. Like, he got out and started freaking out, and then he had to stop and turn around and go back in to get it. And then that I just thought there were some cool shots with that too, in that whole kind of graveyard scene. It had kind of that it was kind of like a set, but it was not like a set. It was more of like a made you feel like you were kind of out of reality a little bit in that set. So yeah.
The fog was great. You could really see the wisps of fog were really defined, and they kind of swirled around and stuff, which I suppose means it was smoke, but it looked really cool the way they did it. So you mentioned the shadows. It turns out the cinematographer, Burnett Guffey, probably the main reason I put up the picture of Krull hanging Anna from the thumbs there is the shadows behind is what really, I don't know why. Just incredible. So the cinematographer, Burnett Guffey, had already won an Oscar for From Here to Eternity. And had been nominated for The Harder They Fall in 1956. And after this, he was nominated for Birdman of Alcatraz in 62, King Rat in 65. That was the George Segal, right? And he won another Oscar for Bonnie and Clyde, which is incredible cinematography. So I think maybe Castle benefited from that.
Definitely.
Yeah, that bottom scene. I mean, it's lovely. I mean, it's horrible what's happening, but it's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful.
Well, the way the whole thing's shot too, because in here he's showing her the bowl in the center picture. He's showing her the bowl with the leeches in it. Lorna Hanson or Anna, and the way they do that, they have it. It's so well done. Like that bowl is sort of in the foreground while the two are talking, and it's just it's present. It's there. You know, you're waiting for.
Yeah, it's the focus of that particular conversation. That shot is that. Yeah.
Oh, and the
It shows you how cruel Kroll was.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah. Put the so apparently there was a story about Castle said that he got these real leeches. There's real leeches in that bowl. You can see them swimming around and stuff. And he wanted to use them on the people. And
of course he did.
They said no way. And he's like, it's no big deal. Here, you know. And he puts one on, and then it stuck on, and then he went, yeah, maybe you don't have to do that. Supposedly, you know, he's going to show. He's a director that shows them how it's not so bad. So they're pretty obviously sort of like gummy bear leeches or something. Gummy leeches.
Oh my gosh!
These are my gummy leeches. Look at them.
They're weird. I mean, literally, he walks. Cargrave gets her. He walks in the door and hears a woman screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, sorry, wrong room.
No, don't go in there.
I'm looking for the bathroom. It's behind that curtain.
And then when the screaming starts later on, from when he's got those women in the village, he just kind of turns his head and then goes back to unpacking, preparing for the evening.
Well, that was really weird. That was really weird. I mean, we have visitors. Okay, go ahead and see to them. I'll be down. 5 village women.
Yeah.
Who come out to the infamous. I mean, this is the guy that the person at the train station won't even say his name. You know,
right?
He's going to Baron Sarconicus, and he's like, oh. And the music goes boom. You know, there's a big crescendo. And the guy goes, he goes, why? What? He goes, I didn't say anything, did I? I didn't say anything bad. You know, it's just, he's petrified. Oh, jeez.
But he never came across that way in the movie the rest of the time, that he just terrorized the whole township.
Right. Yeah.
Just,
No, but apparently all it took was a gold piece for the 5 women to show up. And then the one that got to stay, apparently that was the screams, right?
I kind of want to read the was it a novella you said? Yeah, novella.
Yeah, it's like 30 or 40 pages.
It does seem like there are these things that are kind of referenced to, like a couple times there's discussions that kind of like the older people of the village are kind of have some superstition, or they have some, there's some myth about that's part of their culture. And the young ones, like, often they just kind of poo-poo it. And then they end up paying for that later. So kind of like those young women just kind of wanting to gold, or maybe they're just going to a party and they're just kind of like, they say that about the castle, but who knows? And Sardonicus, when he was pre-Sardonicus, I can't remember what his name was, but he didn't really seem to be that concerned about ghouls or anything either. And then there was also kind of a little bit of discussion about that people are kind of made to be evil. Like that kind of comes up a couple times, and it's just kind of referenced. Like people are driven, ghouls are driven, men that are driven to this horrible thing. And then Sardonicus seemed like a pretty regular guy, but then he became this horrible person. It's almost like hard to believe that this person could turn into this horrible person because he's so evil. So I just wonder if that kind of was in it more or not, or if it was like what you said. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but I just was like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, that's interesting,
I can't remember. I've read it, and it's I'm sure you can find it online, but I have one of the things I've did all through the 80s and 90s was I bought like every short story collection in horror that I ever ran across. I have like shelves and shelves and shelves of anthologies.
Cool.
And it's in a couple of different ones that I have actually. But I it's been probably 40 years since I read it. So I need to,
Mhm.
I was going to read it again and I didn't.
Mhm.
So there. But I think one of the things I thought was well written was one is there's that time where Sir Robert is he's talking with Maud, and he starts to say, it's just before dinner, and he starts to say, well, I can't wait to meet him face to face. And he stops right in the middle of face to face and looks up and sees
the face.
Yeah.
Or the mask.
Oh, I guess we're not meeting face to face. Face to mask.
Yeah, that's scary too.
It really
It
is.
is.
Yeah, it is very disturbing. Yeah. They did a really good job with that mask. I think they did a really,
Yeah, it's a thing of nightmares. The mask, and then even the grimace under it is. Ugh. No, that is cool. Gives almost gives like a Phantom of the Opera vibes. Almost.
Yeah.
Well,
it also made me think of the, gosh, I picked it too. I'm totally spacing out on the name, but the one where the daughter has the mask and her dad is trying to graft skin on her.
Yes,
super famous one. Eyes Without a Face.
Eyes Without a Face. It does.
Well,
it looks like a little China doll here, or a cubie doll or something.
Some sort of porcelain almost.
Kind of common. I've seen a bunch of. I don't know if you guys saw like Boardwalk Empire, but there was they use these sort of masks like that for a lot of World War I soldiers. They didn't have anything much better, so they would mold a partial mask to cover up
if they had
part of their face.
Yeah, disfigured wounds and stuff. Yeah.
There was a character in Boardwalk Empire that was like that. I don't know. Have you ever heard of the makeup supervisor is listed as Ben Lane?
I've never heard of him.
And neither. It's Jiminy Christmas. He did a ton of stuff. Wow. That's another guy that had jobs on some really well-known movies. Jeez. 139 episodes of I Dream of Jeannie.
What?
Ben Lane?
Yeah, a lot of TV stuff.
Okay. And now I'm seeing a little bit. Yeah.
But then Funny Girl, The Monkees. He just was a go-to makeup artist, I think. It looks like. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner?
I mean, I was gonna say in the original Guess Who.
So Jerry Lewis movies.
Lady.
Anyway.
Annie.
Did you just say lady?
What's that? Oh, I
might have it skips out. It comes out sometimes.
Oh yeah. Hey lady. Is that what you do? Hey lady. I had a friend that always did that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this guy was well known. He didn't have an Oscar. He had a Primetime Emmy, I think. Was in tons of stuff, but apparently very reliable and
it seems
makeup
like
artist.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then we might as well go to the next thing. It's well paced, I think, because we go a certain length of time before we ever even see the mask, right? And then at some point he tells the story of his father to Sir Robert, and that's when we get to see this in the midst of the story. We're 50 minutes into the 90-minute movie before we see that.
Really?
But I didn't feel like I was getting screwed at all. I mean,
that's the thing.
They keep that mystery going. You got the leeches, you got the women in the basement, all these other things are going on where you're kind of going, whoa. So, those teeth. It is. It's just,
it's wild.
So, that was part of the writing that I liked. I also liked the writing with Krull. So what did you think of that about his arc? Because
it's great.
Yeah, I thought it was great too. I mean, he'd had enough, I guess. He'd had enough. That eye makeup, though, I could swear I could see his eye down in there sometimes looking out.
Yeah.
But that was just creepy. And the fact that he put up with his eye being gouged out and then still that long, going on as
and I forget what was the reason behind that. It was an experiment, or if you don't
I don't think they said. I think
he just said, "Do you remember what happened when
him?" Yeah, he questioned him or something. Questioned Sardonicus or something. And I loved how he was just drawn. I was constantly looking at just the stitches on his eyes. I was
like stuck together in the middle, and sort of like a glass eye on one side. And,
and I felt like, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
The Oscar Homolka is an awesome character actor too. He's another one of those guys that's like in tons of stuff. I just saw him in an Alfred Hitchcock hour not too long ago.
He was great in this. I thought he was so good. And at the end, I didn't really know which way he would go, because I think he was just so used to doing Sardonicus's wishes and being this servant to him that it's almost like he kind of remembered that he didn't start out that way or something. So I didn't know which way he was going to go. I was actually a little surprised when he just sat down and started tormenting him with the food and stuff. I was like, wow.
Well, it's nice weird. You got the leeches, and then you have him disciplining Anna, hanging her by her thumbs.
Yeah.
But yet, when Sardonicus tells them to cut the face of Maud, when she's tied up in the chair to cut her nerves, then he's like,
that's taking it too far.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going too far.
Right.
But then, he's going to do it anyway.
Well, he doesn't look like a guy whose moral compass always points north.
No.
No.
Things going,
spinning. He had such a, like, you can see in that face in the top picture, the way his lip, when he talked, his mouth was just so animated. I don't know how to explain it. I couldn't say words the way he did at all. And he had that awesome accent. So
I also loved how he could be so acting like he's so respectful, but he for a second, and then it's gone, and he's just like leering at you. It's just all fake, and you have to just turn for a second, and he was so good.
Yeah, it's not too long after Sir Robert promises Anna that she won't have to go through that again. That Krull's got her hanging in this room, and it's almost sort of like, oh, you thought you were going to help yourself, huh? Anyway,
and who comes up with that idea? I mean, he was coming up with horrible things to do with those leeches and loving it. It was just like, oh my gosh, this guy is a whole nother level of bad.
Well, the thing I like that we get is that was also a slow reveal. We get the eye. And it takes a while before we actually find out that was inflicted by Sardonicus. And then when we get to the end, or not even to the end, it's after Sir Robert treats him, and Sardonicus runs down to the other hall. This place has no mirrors. So Krull hasn't seen his messed up eye for years. And Sardonicus runs down there and rips this cover off this mirror. And that's when Krull kind of goes, and he goes down there to get a gander of himself in the mirror. That's which I thought was a really nice and subtle touch. That they don't really explain all this stuff. It's just it's told. There's not, the only exposition is him telling that story, but it's really sort of a flashback. Otherwise, you have to get it all yourself, and it's there.
And it's neat because Krull mentioned before to the doctor that there were no mirrors there. Like you could, because he asked about one, and he said there are no mirrors, basically. And so I thought that was cool that happened to him, like when he ended up seeing himself, with the fact of knowing like he had that kind of wording.
Well, it was almost like he was slowly, like, I don't want to say like coming out of a dream or something, but it was like he was slowly kind of like, I don't know, maybe he hadn't even seen his eye, you know, maybe he's before, or
it's possible,
you know, and so it was almost kind of like he was so good at playing this character that I just felt like he was kind of, you could tell that there was more to this character potentially, you know, than just this assistant, you know, this damaged assistant.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to, you know, I mean, it's silly to think about, but, you know, where he came from and what his background was. But he's obviously was willing to do things to survive, you know, and seemed to have a severe sadistic bent in himself. So he runs after, so he supposedly, Sir Robert cures Sardonicus, the Baron, only his face goes natural, but then he says, you won't be able to move your lips for a while. You'll ruin everything if you do that. And so the Baron signs off everything and gives his wife a release, and Maud and Sir Robert head for the train station. And before the train leaves, Kroll comes running up. He can't open his mouth. He can't open his mouth. He's going to starve to death, blah, blah, blah. And that's when you find out that he gave him the equivalent of a placebo.
Yeah. I was about to mention that, because it was that injection that he, or was it? See, I question a lot. I'm like, what? Did he really do this? But using that.
Well, that fits your idea that it was like psychosomatic or something.
Right.
The whole thing. Yeah.
Right. That's why. Because I'm like, if he gave him a placebo, then is this really something that Sardonicus had? Did he just think of all this stuff that he's been through, and did he just utilize that to try to, what's the word? Validate his feelings on torturing and getting his way with things? I don't know.
Justify that behavior and stuff.
Yeah, he was.
You guys went way deeper than I did on that.
I interrupted you when you were talking about the Oscar Homolka. So he's been in lots of other stuff, you're saying? Because he clearly is. He's got
like 100. He was nominated for an Oscar way back in 1948, and there's a kind of a classic film called I Remember Mama. I don't know if you've ever seen that or not. Yeah, he plays the uncle of the family that the story's about, Uncle Chris. But if I saw him literally. I was going through all the Alfred Hitchcocks. He was in 3 different Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which is the half-hour show, and I thought he was in some of the hour show, but I don't see that, so I must have got it mixed up. I don't see him in a lot of horror movies, but he certainly could have been. Excellent character actor. And if you look at his IMDb, he's a very handsome young man in his headshot there. What else do we have here? So I love the ending, and you're right. I mean, William Castle comes in. There's some information where they claim they shot 2 endings, but when they really tried to dig into it, literally everybody said, yeah, no, they didn't shoot 2 endings.
Oh, boy.
Castle stands up like he's counting heads.
Yeah. With the paper.
Yeah.
Like you in the back.
Minus 14. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Carry the 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's what I didn't like about it. It broke up a very serious ending to this movie. And then here he comes with his trench coat and stogie. and slouch hat.
That was and that was a great scene. I mean, Sir Robert tells Kroll that it's all, he can open his mouth anytime.
Yeah,
you know, I didn't give him anything, and his thing went away. So,
well, that backs up what Whitney was saying too about how it's a mental.
Yeah,
he did it to himself. Yeah.
So Kroll goes running back.
confusing.
Yeah, Kroll goes running back, and that's when he gets his revenge finally. You know?
Yeah. He's probably going, but he can't move his mouth. Oh, never mind. I'll be back tomorrow for the groceries.
I'm sorry. Their train had already left. And then he sits down and starts eating while the Baron can't eat and is going crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It was a great ending. It was a good Twilight Zone-y type ending.
It did make me think of Twilight Zone a little bit.
And now that you mentioned that, it's like the ending, how the shot is from high above. That does kind of remind me also of Twilight Zone, because sometimes the shots were from above, so you just look down and you see, you see him down there. Yeah.
Like at the banister.
Which was great. Yeah, at the banister. Yeah. Yeah, that was a great, great ending.
Well, I've mentioned this guy before, but the music, which I loved right off from the bat. It was typical old school horror movies, but it was great. I just thought it was great the way it accented things and lightened things up in certain parts. And this guy, Von Dexter, that's when I found out that one day that he died in Rhinebeck, Iowa. And apparently shortly after this movie, he was having... let me see if I can find that information. It's not here. Somewhere I read this. He suffered from a hand condition that stiffened his fingers and made it impossible to write film scores at the necessary speed. So that's when he and his wife moved to Rhinebeck, where they ran a music publishing business called Video Music. And then he died in 1996 of lymphoma. So he did a lot of 58 to 61. He did all the Castle stuff.
Yeah.
So. And I brought him up before because Rhinebeck's maybe, I don't know, 65 miles from here. And we have friends that lived in Rhinebeck, so we used to go there all the time. And I asked them if they ever heard of the guy, and they said no. Wow. Now maybe he was living by his regular name, which was Levon Howley Urbanski. So, you know how it is when you live in Iowa. It's not real until there's an Iowa connection.
The music is iconic, and it definitely makes me, like, when I was watching this, and it made me think of what was the similarity to the sounds in like 13 Ghosts or House on Haunted Hill, that kind of thing. So it's a huge part of this kind of cinema experience of watching these movies.
Yeah, it definitely adds it's a big part of the atmosphere for sure.
I feel like Castle always had good music in his movies like that were really thrilling and shocking.
Well, he did. Yeah, he was a composer for the other three that we've done: House on Haunted Hill, The Tingler, and 13 Ghosts. So definitely some similarities here, but it's well done and is tailored to fit the movie with accent points and things like that. So, all right, had to bring him up. Get my Rhinebeck, Iowa connection there.
It's a good connection.
It's all about Batman and Iowa.
Now we just need a picture of Adam West standing in the cornfield.
Well, I feel like
James T. Kirk was born in Iowa too. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I said I feel like I'm the Batman connection. I'm like, because I've had this like weird like stiff feeling in my neck.
And radar was from like Oskaloosa, I think, or a Batman.
There, perfect. There it is. See,
Ugh.
it's there. It's there.
Guy Rolfe. Guy Rolfe, the guy who plays Sardonicus, was in Snow White and the Three Stooges.
I love the Three Stooges, but that is not
one of their better works.
No.
Well, and this, I don't know if you watch these or not, but it also says he has recurring appearances in the Puppet Master franchise.
Yes,
Charles
I did look
Yeah.
that up.
Yeah.
And he was in, a couple of the movies from the guy who did Puppet Master. Yeah.
Wow.
Because he really was intriguing to me in this movie. Just the way he played the character and everything. So I did look into that. I forgot that he's been in a couple of genre movies.
Mm-hmm.
He had a like a Shakespearean way
Yeah.
of speaking
Yep.
and moving. Like when he walked, he was so smooth, almost like a dancer or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, the charisma was.
Yeah. He was very graceful and dignified. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Which I felt like really added to Sardonicus's kind of something about his character, just the way he moved and was so
He was also in
articulate.
Dolls.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
The Stuart Gordon.
Yeah. I know that movie. That one actually freaked me out. I watched that when I was too young.
Yeah, he was the old guy with the hair.
Oh gosh.
Really? Because I love that.
Oh, wow.
And I
can see that.
I gotta look back at that.
That's insane. Yeah. Wow. Okay. He did. This guy freaked me out a few times in my life. in this film and then in Dolls. Yeah. But
I know. I was really surprised when I was looking up his biography.
I think, if I have this right, I think Ronald Lewis had kind of a sad end.
I think, did he die young and kind of?
Yeah.
who
He
was
had a
this?
role
In
in
trouble
Billy
with the
Budd.
law.
Well, it said he had a declining career. I didn't see the law, but he died from a drug overdose in 1982 at the age of 53. Oh, this is perfect. Guy Rolfe switched from race car driving to acting.
Perfect.
That's awesome. And was in stuff like Ivanhoe. All right. And Audrey Dalton, right, who plays Maude, did a fair amount of television as well. So Maude, and she'd be the perfect character too. Maude did 6 episodes of Wagon Train. Audrey Dalton. Like 3. See, I thought she looked really familiar, but I kept mixing her up with another actress that looked kind of like that. I think I thought she looked a little bit like Deborah Paget or Linda Darnell, maybe. I don't know. But she did 3 episodes of Thriller. Anyway. All right. Everybody was well played. Any final comments here about this or anything we've left unsaid that people want to talk about?
My favorite scene with Sir Robert Cargrave was the nightmare scene when he's basically like young Frankenstein, like destiny. He's like going by sweating and people's faces are coming in and out of the thing, and I was like, wow.
That's funny.
I think all the actors were really, really good. I think that I just think I really enjoyed this movie, and I just feel like, it should be taken a little bit more seriously or something. I don't know. It's just really, really good. And creepy, and the story's great, and the makeup is fantastic. Yeah, I'm really glad that thanks for picking it, Chad, because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree with you. It feels like it should be more well known than it is.
Yeah.
It's one of William Castle's better movies, I think. As far as the way it's written, and the way it's shot and the way it's presented and everything is just one of his better films. It could have done without the gimmick, I think, and still been a great movie.
Yeah.
You ever read any Ray Russell?
I've read Ray Nussel.
Sorry. So he was a writer on X, the Man with X-Ray Eyes. Pretty cool, eh?
Ray Milland.
Yeah. Zots. The Premature Burial. And the Incubus.
Is that a Saturday morning cartoon?
Did you ever see the Incubus?
Yeah, I saw the Incubus. John Cassavetes.
Yeah. Well, that was from a novel by Ray Russell.
Oh.
So
Now, I read one by Ray Nussel called The Succubus.
That was his twin, and that was his the companion volume too.
Okay. Those two Nussels are hard to keep straight.
I always get in trouble if I don't copy and paste, you know. Just type it in there. Oh Lord! And I only had 10 days to prove it.
Don't.
Okay.
That's my bread and butter. Don't do away with it.
Yeah.
Without those mistakes, I'd have nothing.
Oh my gosh.
I think we kind of got all of it.
I love this podcast.
I love the hypodermic.
I was just gonna say I love you guys. Oh yeah, the hypodermic.
Hypodermic.
It's called a hypodermic.
Does that mean
And
it
the
goes in
doctor
the
was
butt?
going.
Pierces the skin. It goes. How does he do that? It's injected directly into the bloodstream and goes to work immediately. The two words are directly and immediate.
And the other doctor's looking at it like, oh my God.
I know.
What's with the needle? Oh, it's not a needle. It's got a hole through it. It's a tiny tube. Although I was looking at that needle and going, oh, that's definitely an ancient needle. That was a big sucker.
It looked like
anyway.
the one Fu Manchu was using on those guys he was trying to mind control.
Oh my
All right.
gosh.
So check out Sardonicus, Mr.
Yes.
Sardonicus.
Yes.
And check out the story. It is available on Classic Horror Movie Channel right now. One of the ones that we're also on.
It's a good copy too.
And it is.
Mhm.
It is. All right. We got some feedback.
Woohoo!
And Chad, you probably recognize this one because we did it on 70s because it kind of was a crossover, this first one. But it's kind of a long one, so who feels like reading a long one? I was going to give it to Chad because he's already heard it once, so he doesn't have to.
Yeah, I'll do it. You want me to read it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. This is from our new buddy, Scott. Scott says, Dear Gru Crew, I have recently, within the last few months, found your podcasts, Decades of Horror, and have been listening constantly to them while at work to get me through some gruelingly mind-numbing projects. While I've not ventured into the 80s, I do love the classic era. That's us. Especially, and some of the 70s. So those are the ones I've been listening to. I have pretty much caught up with all the classic era and was happy to find several new films to give a look to. While I had seen several of the Japanese films you covered, the Mexican ones were new to me, and so I've been happily going through those. Yay, Whitney! Ship of Monsters was, yes, going way back, was a good deal of fun. And while I wasn't able to find the El Santo film you covered, I did get to watch Santo, the Blue Demon versus Dracula, and the Wolfman, which was just tremendous fun. And it took a long time to say. That's a long title. So much so that I went on a kick of watching as many of the El Santo movies as I could find, and even a few of the other luchador movies of the era. Okay. I noticed that in the DOH 70 show about Jaws 2, You did mention Roy Scheider's early appearance in the rather dire The Curse of the Living Corpse from 1964. While the film itself is of questionable quality, why, for example, do the killer's very light blue eyes change to dark brown when he is unmasked?
I love when that happens.
Yeah. It happens to Batman, too. He gets these big dark circles around his eyes for some reason. There's at least an interesting connection there. Scheider secured that part because he was suggested for the role by Candice Hilligoss of Carnival of Souls fame, who was also in that movie. In this way, we can sort of say that Herc Harvey, is that right? Herc Harvey? Hulk Smash! Is in some ways responsible for the eventual success of films like The French Connection or Jaws, since we can trace a path of from Carnival of Souls through Curse of the Living Corpse to those other blockbusters. Or maybe not. Who knows?
That's the way my brain works. I start drawing connections like that, and then by the time you get to the third connection, Chad's going.
Well, I'm trying to paint eyeballs on the front of my eyelids so when he falls asleep. So, trying to figure out how to do that. Okay. And Scott goes on to say, I'm hoping to hear a lot more from the classic era. Yay! Maybe a discussion of 1958's other Dracula film, The Return of Dracula with Francis Lederer, which has recently been fascinating me, or the truly strange but beautifully filmed I Bury the Living, also from 1958. And maybe in the 70s. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, yeah, those. I don't know if you remember or not, but when Dave joined us, I think for like Dracula way back when or something. I don't know. He mentioned The Return of Dracula as a movie that he remembered from being a kid, and it's out there, and it's really an interesting. It's pretty good, as is I Bury the Living with Richard Boone.
I have a small and no doubt badly written film blog.
No, I maybe in the 70s. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. And maybe in the 70s you can cover Santo, the Blue Demon versus Dracula and the Wolfman, just so I can have an excuse to watch that lunacy again. I have a small and no doubt badly written film blog that covers a lot of the things you do. It's erratically published, and I don't think anyone has ever looked at it. But if you'd like to, you can find it here at SaturdayMadTheater.blogspot.com.
Nice.
Cool.
So you guys
give
him a look.
It's kind of interesting. It's not fancy, but he just does he just picks a subject and starts writing about it.
Cool.
Awesome.
Pretty decent. There's a section in there on Luchador. So
I'm writing this down.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I feel bad because I listened to all of your podcasts going back for years, and I don't feel right in commenting on most of them because it's sort of like necromancy. I'd be resurrecting dead topics years after they passed, but I will try to comment more going into the future. And we don't care. You can comment on any episode you want. We don't. Yeah. That's no biggie.
Necromance the hell out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, do that. But it's going to cost you monies.
Oh, we love Ship of Monsters too.
Yeah, we do. Thank you all for covering these films that I love. I have a few people I can talk to about these movies, and so it's nice to listen in and feel like I'm not on my own in my love for these older films. Keep up the good work, Scott. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks,
that was a good email.
It is.
Good
Thanks, Scott.
That's what I feel like I found, you know. Yeah, one of us. I like just getting together with you guys and talking about the movies. I was my brother-in-law was here this weekend, and my sister-in-law was here one of those days, and my brother-in-law kept asking me questions about the podcast and how do you do it, what do you do, where do you blah blah blah. And then she asked me, well, how long is it? I said, they're usually about an hour to an hour and a half. And she's going, you talk about one movie for an hour and a half? Yeah, when we cut it short. So anyway. Who wants, Whitney.
Sure.
Maybe. El Libro de Piedra.
Yeah. El Libro de Piedra. Mike Zatz. I'm sorry if I'm not saying his name right.
Mikey Z. That's what we call him.
Zatz.
He answers to anything.
All right.
Mikey Z.
Yeah. Okay. Mike says, for me, pretty standard ghost tale with some interesting overhead shots, perhaps indicating an omnipresent view. I wish it has more themes in it, like Dos Monjes or Macarillo. Another creepy kid. What is it with creepy kids and scary films? It started as a guess who the witch is and became obvious during the salt pentagram scenes. Yeah. And goes on to saying, the adults except Mariana seemed pretty laid back regarding the strange things going on. Me, I'm out of there. Calling contractor to remove that statue. That shot of Hugo in the reflection was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. As usual, great podcast. Nice pick, Whitney's dad. Thank you. I'll tell you something.
Okay, and this we're getting picks in here. So Daphne, this was
Sure.
your pick.
All right. Okay, Body Snatcher from Hell. Mike. Insane language barriers broken at a whim. Love the pre-70s super bleak plot. There is no amount of water to quench the thirst of unscrupulous politicians. Tell me about it. Like, I agree with Jeff. I think the slit in the alien's face might subliminally evoke some other body part. My comments were going in all directions that the many plots of this film went. Plots that go off on more tangents than the DOH podcast. It's a lot of tangents.
What?
Great job, Crew. As always, keep bringing the scare.
I'm shocked he would say something like that.
All right, War of the Worlds. So, Evil Genius, and he took a little bit of a hiatus, and then apparently started listening again, and it just started writing comments like crazy. So he was catching up. 125, War of the Worlds. Evil says, "I wonder what would have happened if the Martians attacked, but were too late because the world was already taken over by the Blob." Or if the Blob was used to counter attack, I don't know. You know, one of the things we didn't mention in the Blob that I was intending to mention was that Santos, the Black Saint, always said that was like the epitome of the most evil monster. It didn't think, it didn't do anything, it just consumed and got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
All right, here's one from Evil, also on the Blob, 123. I think we're back around to Chad, probably.
Okay.
We got to keep him awake.
122.
Blob.
123, the Blob? Okay, gotcha. I was looking at the wrong one. Okay, Evil Genius says, I remember first seeing the Blob at a church-hosted movie day for the kids in the late 70s. I guess they deemed it harmless enough. It is a pretty funky movie. I remember liking it when I first saw it. Jello monster eats people. Pretty basic format for a kid to understand, yeah? I did like the later remake. I agree that it was really underappreciated. Yeah, so do I. I know that Rob Zombie leaves a polarized array of opinions on his movies, but I saw his production storyboards that he was kicking around when he was looking at the Blob. I was actually intrigued. I would have rather have him try the Blob than Halloween.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, he had a Blob remake going there for a while. And
Really?
yeah, I don't know what happened, but that would have been interesting. It would have showed the Blob's childhood being that raised by,
the Blob probably.
Blobs.
Yeah, trailer trash Blobs.
It would have been Sherry Moon playing the Blob.
Yeah, with Sherry Moon playing Mother Blob, or some other. As long as she's on screen.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rob Zombie fan.
Yeah.
All right. Last piece of feedback, episode 122, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And this is also from Evil, but do you know what song he's talking about? Anybody? Whitney, you want to take that one?
Oh, did I say something? I said something about Wasp, the band.
Wasp, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can read this one. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Evil Genius says, I never thought I'd hear you guys reference Wasp. Is he talking about the metal band, or is this something that you... Oh.
I mentioned it in the show. The lyrics to one of the songs was about evil and good and everybody. So, but yeah, I love Wasp. They're one of my favorite bands. Just saying.
All right. And he says, but I shall reference another great rock band, Men at Work. And he says, this...
Oh, he wasn't joking?
This is the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Jive.
Dr. Heckle.
Dr. Heckle. Sorry. Dr. Heckle and Mr. Jive. They are a person who feels good to be alive. This is the story of Dr. Heckle and Mr. Jive, believes the underdog will eventually survive. Another take on this eternal classic. All right.
So I've been educated on that one. You know, that reminds me that when we were doing this movie and I was researching, there's a spoof of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, like a 13 or 20 minute silent film starring Stan Laurel.
Oh.
Who plays this goofy character that's supposed to be, and I can't remember what it's called. It's called something different. It's sort of like a pun. But anyway, how's that for getting on a tangent? All right. All right. Thanks for the feedback, Evil, Mikey Z, and Scott, especially Scott. We really appreciate it. Anything else you want to have? And I'll throw your link in the blog notes if anybody wants to check that out. All right. That's it for this episode. But every 2 weeks, we'll be focusing on a specific film released between 1920 and 1969. Next up is one chosen by Jeff. Sort of. I had somebody strongly suggest this to me. The Crawling Eye from 1958.
I wonder who could have suggested that.
Also known as The Trollenberg Terror, starring Forrest Tucker. It's a hooty hoot. It's got some crazy effects work.
I've only seen bits of this, so
join us for that one. There's plenty of ways to stay in touch. Please leave feedback on the YouTube channel, comments, like, subscribe, ring that bell, ding-ling, alerts, whatever. Share.
Let's not say that.
Share it. Share it.
Yeah, let's find a new name for that.
Go back to the
ding-a-ling alert. Ding-a-ling alert.
I want that next to classic alert. The classic classic arrow.
I'm pretty sure you could probably get ding-a-ling alert out there somewhere.
Don't be sticking that thing in there.
Oh my god.
Plenty of, and also we have
leave it to Jeff to make things weird.
I can't help it. You could also send it to feedback@gruesomemagazine.com. We also have a Facebook group. Check that out. And a website, gruesomemagazine.com. So catch us here again in 2 weeks for another great horror movie of the classic era, as only decades of horror can do it. Say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, my homicide.
Gruesome Magazine.